Lots of folks are asking me about military service under Donald Trump. Should they continue to serve? Should they join, knowing that Donald Trump, an unhinged wannabe dictator, is our incoming commander-in-chief? And my thoughts on this might surprise you. So first, some background. My name is Christopher Goldsmith. I am the founder of Task Force Butler Institute and Veterans Fighting Fascism. I was a sergeant in the United States Army, a forward observer. My job was basically to make stuff go boom, running around with the infantry. If you've ever watched a Tom Hanks war movie, there's always a group that's walking through a city or walking through a jungle. They get ambushed, everybody lays down, and then there's a nerd with glasses who lays down and starts shouting into a microphone. I'm the nerd with the glasses shouting into the microphone. I'm the one who makes stuff blow up. I spent a year in Iraq, and I came home with severe post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the things that I experienced there. And that is something that nearly 20 years later, next year will be 20 years, I am still struggling with today. And if you've seen me before talk about war, you know that I'm generally pretty anti-war. So it might surprise you when I say that I am not discouraging military service under Donald Trump as president. So if you've been watching, you know that we just started Veterans Fighting Fascism's Anti-Fascist Book Club. And I'm going to go through a few lessons from Timothy Snyder's book on Tyranny to talk about some of the reasons that I'm not discouraging military service under Donald Trump. So chapter 1 is Do Not Obey in Advance. The PDF is also free. It's easy to find online if you want to read the whole book for free. It's also really small. If you like paper, I like paper, you can buy it online. Support your local bookstore. So, do not obey in advance. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. So some of the folks who I have heard from through email, comments, DMs on TikTok and the other social media apps, they come from targeted communities, the LGBTQIA+ community especially. And folks are worried about what might happen to them because they're already serving. One person who reached out to me this morning has been in the reserves for 12 years. They are married and they have children. And the incoming administration is hostile to that person's existence and way of life. So these aren't just words on a page. I can only imagine the distress that this particular person is facing as they're making this decision. Now, I can't provide a recommendation to them because I don't know anything else about them as to whether or not they should leave. But here are the things that I told them about. When we consider not obeying in advance, and we think about diversity in the military, which we know that Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump are really set on destroying and making it an all-male white force, folks from these targeted communities, women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, immigrants, they might opt to self-select and get out of the military. Now, on the one hand, you could say that this is obeying in advance, purging yourself from the military before they try to do it. On the other hand, it is potentially keeping you and your family safe from very real harm, because being purged from the military and not doing it on your own terms can be a traumatic experience that affects things like your benefits, your employability, and your well-being for the rest of your life. So I cannot tell people, do not obey in advance in this specific case, because I don't want people to put themselves in harm's way without knowing for sure that they can handle it and it'll do more good than harm. I would suggest to those who believe that they can handle such a negative experience as to being forced out of the military because of their identity, or folks who are worried about being given illegal orders or being ordered to do something here in the United States that compromises your values, or worried about being sent overseas in another unjust war because a narcissistic psychopath gets in a fight with some other world leader and decides to just send Americans off to battle in some faraway land. There may be an advantage in the middle, and that is a strategic time to leave the service if that becomes necessary. If you are a member of one of these targeted communities, it may make more sense for you to resign your commission or request conscientious objector status. Again, things that people should not take lightly, at a strategic time of your choosing, so that maybe you can do it publicly and draw attention to the problem that is these incoming policies from the Trump administration. Timothy Snyder's second rule: defend institutions. It is institutions that help us preserve decency. They need our help as well. Do not speak of our institutions unless you make them yours by acting on their behalf. Institutions do not protect themselves. They fall one after another unless each is defended from the beginning. So choose an institution you care about: a court, a newspaper, a law, a labor union, and take its side. Note that Snyder is asking you to choose one institution and defend it. Snyder is saying that you should save yourself from the desperation of trying to focus on everything and instead specialize in protecting one institution that you care about. If you are already in the military, you may be in a position to leverage your experience, your platform as a service member and veteran, and your rank. You may be able to protect those below you, your junior soldiers, for example, and to counsel and mentor them to resist fascism from within the ranks, to resist, to identify, and refuse illegal orders. And next is number 5, remember professional ethics. When political leaders set a negative example, professional commitments to just practice become more important. It is hard to subvert a rule of law state without lawyers, or to hold show trials without judges. Authoritarians need obedient civil servants, and concentration camp directors seek businessmen interested in cheap labor. So what this is saying is that if you are currently filling a role as a civil servant, which every service member is doing, if your position becomes vacant because you've left, it could be filled with a toady, who then uses that position against our democracy. So if you're already in the military and you've got some rank, you've already invested a lot in that institution. And it may make sense for you to use your professional ethics to slow down the use of the military to implement fascist policies. Now, for those who are young, who have not yet served and are considering it, I'm also not going to try to dissuade you from service. There are lots of positions in the military that A, are not combat related, and B, can set you up for the rest of your life to be more employable and more successful should you choose to leave the military and start a second career even soon after and doing just one enlistment. If you serve in the military and you receive an honorable discharge, you will qualify for the Forever GI Bill, which will allow you 36 months of schooling. That can be at a trade school, it can be at a community college, or it can be at a private institution with backing from the Yellow Ribbon program. Considering what I've seen student debt do to so many people, I think that the post 9/11 GI Bill is one of the best tools to escape poverty or even the middle class. Lots of folks who join the military at a young age are doing it to escape bad situations. Yes, there's a lot of opportunity out there, but they're also trying to get away from, say, family or a group of friends that are a bad influence, or they're just trying to break out of the town that they grew up in and accomplish something more with their life than they'd be able to achieve there. Speaking as a soldier, I served in the Army. I wouldn't recommend the Army. I wouldn't recommend the Marine Corps. I'd say something like the Air Force or maybe the Space Force have a generally better quality of life. Whatever you choose, you should educate yourself. Read books like this and keep this in mind, because even as the most junior soldier, your ethics, your leadership matter. And if you want to defend our democracy, there are more ways than you can do it in the military without actually fighting in the traditional sense.